A Limpopo businessman and game breeder, Dawid Groenewald and Schalk Steyn, have appeared in court for alleged illegal possession of rhino horn. The two were caught while allegedly transporting 19 rhino horns in 2 bakkies. It's not the first time Groenewald has been arrested. He received a suspended sentence for being the mastermind behind South Africa's largest rhino poaching syndicates. That was back in 2010. Let's discuss these developments with Joe Shaw from the World Wildlife Fund. Thank you for joining me, Joe. So how significant is this particular arrest given the personalities at the center of the arrests?
I think we can certainly count these as significant arrests of alleged members of serious rhino horn trafficking syndicates in Mbombela yesterday. We know, as you've noted, that one of these individuals, Groenewald, he was first arrested over a decade ago. His was the first big syndicate case on rhino horn trafficking, which is still ongoing. The latest court date has been postponed again. He's also been indicted by the US Department of Justice for selling illegal rhino hunts. So it's certainly significant that he's been arrested a second time. It's positive that his vehicle was also seized. And I think this sends an important message that the South African authorities are cracking down on trafficking of wildlife products.
19 rhino horns, Joe, that's significant, right? If you think about the lives of the species that we're dealing with, the precarious nature of their existence and the threats that they face.
Absolutely, and I think this is significant for another reason, because the focus here is on the trafficking syndicate. They were arrested for the illegal sale and movement of horn, and people working in illegal wildlife trade recognize it's important for law enforcement not just to focus on the poachers on the ground, but investigate all the forms by which horn is being obtained and being illegally exported. So it's definitely a significant development that this is focusing on the trafficking network, the syndicate at that level. And on that note, we've seen several recent seizures of rhino horn at OR Tambo, including more than 160 kilograms at the weekend. So I think this shows that the agencies are collaborating, and by working together along the trade chain, they will have positive developments on these syndicates.
So that massive haul and seizure at OR Tambo that you allude to, juxtaposed and coupled with this significant arrest that has now happened, one would have thought, Joe, that with the restrictions on movement, on human movement and international travel, perhaps this would be, a bit of a respite for, the endangered rhino. But it would seem that's not the case, is it?
So last year, during lockdown level 5, there certainly was some respect to rhino. I think the curtailing of the movement of people and perhaps to a lesser extent the products out of South Africa did mean there were less poaching attempts. We did see fewer poaching losses. However, we've heard reports since the end of last year that poaching pressure is picking up. Although there's been no recent release of figures, it certainly seems that pressure has continued through 2021. So we're not hearing about rhino poaching as often, but the problem certainly hasn't gone away. And of course, the other side of the coin with COVID is that the restrictions on travel, on tourism, have had devastating impacts on the operating budgets of parks. And on people's livelihoods. So in many ways, that has added to the challenge.
Just lastly, Joe, your sense then on law enforcement, because the fact that, this one person who's implicated here, Dawid Groenewald, had previously been arrested on similar charges, and there had been an allegation that he was part of one of the bigger trafficking rhino horn poaching and trafficking syndicates, and the other suspect as well had also, A.B. Steyn, had also been linked to other environmental crimes. What does that tell us about the grip we have in as far as our laws are concerned to ensure that, you take people out of this, the equation. These are people that, if this arrest of Groenewald was in 2010, by 2021, naturally, if he's someone who's believed to be involved in these activities, he should not even be in play in this context.
Yes, it's certainly concerning that case, those initial charges have dragged on so long, and apparently he's still allegedly he still seems to be involved in illegal activities around rhino horn in the meantime. However, I think this recent arrest seems to be the result of a very targeted investigation, and I think we can only commend those involved in getting us to this point, and note that people are watching now, and that the justice can now play out.
And how complex are these syndicates, Joe, from your experience? I see the report mentions, a vet surgeon being among the people who were arrested. They mention a pilot, and at the start of our interview, you mentioned and you flagged the importance of the vehicles being seized. Put that together for us, along with the other elements in the criminal justice system, being able to respond to this by using other instruments, such as the laws meant to combat organized crime, racketeering, etc.
So the allegations around Groenewald have been based on his obtaining horn from various illegal means through setting up illegal hunts. You may remember the stories of the use of women being flown in from Asia to take part in alleged pseudo hunts as a way to get hold of horn and export that out of the country. So this was the methodology that he's been charged for in the past. And what's been in South Africa is that this was recognised as organised crime, and the additional charges you've mentioned, such as racketeering, were brought to bear. I think to have significant impact in the future, we need to see asset seizure. We need to see a successful case and seizure of assets which have been brought about by these illegal activities.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time there. That's Joe Shaw from the World Wildlife Fund for Nature. Worldwide Fund for Nature. I was getting this acronym wrong a bit earlier on. It's WWF. Joe Shaw there weighing in on all of these matters. And there are two important things that I suppose I can add to that. Is one, you might think rhino horn, so far from the situation I'm facing, dealing with the aftermath of looting, dealing with the pandemic, etc., but it strikes at the heart of one of the key sectors of the economy. Two, it's also about the preservation of that species of rhino and other wildlife that is being poached. But thirdly, it's part of organized crime, as Joe was alluding to right now. And it's all an ecosystem, is it not? If you allow one element of organized crime to thrive, well, guess what? You're going to have problems, because you might think it's rhino poaching here and it's illicit cigarette smuggling in there. But if you look at it as a picture, we become a haven for organized crime. And that's the last thing we want.